one should be able to run through these processes of research and product viability to be able to clearly understand what you're getting into before you get started. So market research is like a foundation of like decision making process. It basically helps us understand like the target market, the pain point and desire, and also the desire of the market as well as the competitive landscape. And it just helps us to transform um, assumption into like concrete data that we can use to make decisions and reduce risk. Then when you talk about product visibility on the other hand, it's what ensures that the software that we bring to the day, the software that we release is what the market needs. It ensures that we're creating product that people want and solves problems for people. So that's basically just having like a brief idea on what we're trying to do. So the first section of the talk is understanding. Oh, I have a timer. Sorry. Okay. So the first section of this is understanding market research. So market research is basically gathering and analyzing data about your target market, your customers, competitors, and making informed decisions based on those data obtained. So that's like a basic definition that everyone can go home with. So you can also understand that market research empowers you to test the water before taking a very big dump into the water. It enables you to understand the target market and market condition before a competitor. Imagine taking a hot shower before you carry the big bucket and pour on your body. You tend to put your hand inside to test the temperature of the water is at the right temperature. And if you don't do that, you could risk burning yourself by pouring water that is too hot, or it risks a bad bathing experience with water that is too cold. So that concept of touching the water is basically what market research is. Basically, you are going to test the market to understand, test and research the market to understand things that will make you make decision if to get in or how to get in or who to get in with or how to get or if not to even get in at all. So moving on to the next very important thing, because I want to like make us understand the importance of market research before we start diving deep into how this research can take place. So why market research matters. I've seen in the industry most times that people do not do market research. People have like beautiful ideas in their mind and they just basically just dive into the idea and they start struggling and struggling and struggling. Then the whole concept of pivoting will now make you feel that it's okay not to do your research, get into the market with whatever idea you have, and you start pivoting, pivoting, pivoting. But that is not the ideal practice. The ideal practice is you being able to undergo a form of market research before you start investing capital and time into an idea you're trying to build. Most of the questions I'll use and examples I'll use is software product focus because that is where my foundation is. But for those that are not really, really software focused product managers, this ideology still happens across board. So the first thing that makes market research important is informed decisions. It empowers decision data-driven decisions. So if I want to build a product that um, takes that drives individuals from point A to point B, I have to understand how many individuals want to be driven from point A to point B. And when I know the number of people that want to be driven from point A to point B, that is the data that I can use to define my decision. If my target is making a very big company that is going to impact millions of people, and I see that the only individuals in the world that want to move from point A to point B is 12, that is a data that I can use to drive the decision that I shouldn't start that product or I should iterate into a product that can hit the goal that I have in mind. Also reduce the assumption because a lot of times we build things out of assumption. We feel that the market wants a blue cat, not knowing that the market wants a red cat. And in that assumption, market research helps you to eliminate that. It also leads to more effective and efficient choices. We don't have money in the ecosystem is shaky, and even when there's a lot of money it's good to be optimized on how you spend it. So you have to ensure that the decisions you're making are spent on the right thing, and having informed decisions through market research will also help that. Then the second main thing that makes market research matter is customer centric approach. The reality is that every customer that exists is being targeted by a lot of things. There are a lot of things that is targeting them. People want to sell things to them. and they know they have that problem. So you have to understand that putting your customer at the center of your product development is important, because in that way you are able to attract them more and solve the problems for them. And in this market research, that is how you can obtain what the customer needs and put them in the center of the product development. Understand the customer's need, preference, pain points. These things are things that you experience in the result of market research, hence why it matters. So moving to the next thing, two other things that make market research matters. Risk mitigation. Building product is very hard, whether anybody likes it or not. It's a very hard process. It takes time, it takes money, it takes effort, it takes a lot of things, and you have to ensure that you are mitigating risks against investing this effort in the wrong thing. So market research tends to help you mitigate that risk. You are able to identify potential risks earlier on in your development. Okay, I'm building product to change, to disrupt a certain industry. You need to know the risks of that disruption. If you want to get into hospital records, what is the risk that people that already have the way the record structure is already created in the ecosystem, and you're disrupting? What is the risk that people will want to adopt into that new structure you're providing? So you need to be able to understand the risks you're getting into, and that is what market research really helps us champion. Also enables you to have proactive issue resolution. Issues will obviously occur throughout the process of development. So being able to mitigate your risks, you are also able to understand those risks on time and be able to give the right solution to those issues. Because in my experience in product development, there's no product that's gone according to plan, no product has gone smoothly. There's always issues that occur. But being able to research ahead of time, you can determine those issues and mitigate them before they come. Then let's go to the competitive advantage. The market is tough, right? And there are players in the market before you came. Because the reality of life is that even though you feel you are doing something totally new and disruptive, the people that had that problem were solving it in a totally different way. Before cars came, the solution to transportation were animals. Before animals were used for transportation, the solution to transportation was your legs. So you are coming to a market where legs is your competitor. So you have to understand the market so you can see where you stand out from the other people. You are able to identify the gaps and the opportunity in the competitive landscape. Through market research, you can see those gaps, you can see those opportunities. There's one time we're working on a product at Whisper, which really was focused on the retail market, trying to provide data sales for the retail market, and where everybody was doing that, everybody was providing for retail. But we didn't know that retail was the bottom pot, the pot that is not, it's not really bottom pot is the sweet part. So but like the retail market was not where it was not the honey pot, it was not where the money was. So after getting to the thing, we saw that things were moving not too bad, but it was not moving big enough. And we now decided to, okay, take a pause and look into the market, see who are the big, who where the money is moving, see where the challenges are, where is the real problem. And it was from the upper point of the chain. So we climbed up to the point of the chain where we saw a problem that exists. There was a gap there that we just provided a product that solved that. Once that was done, there was a lot of the traction grew mightily in the space of less than a month. We had a massive result, and it was just because we were able to take a pause from what we felt was the right thing and actually run through a market research process to understand the part of the market where the opportunity lies. Also helps you to obtain differentiation, because if you don't research what's the market, you won't know what is in the market. If you don't know what is the market, you don't know how you can stand out. We see that there are products that are solving similar issues, but you can be able to pinpoint products that have a differentiation. Probably this product is their best bet is the rate they offer. Some people the best bet is the customer experience and customer support that they offer. So when you have that research, you're able to point out those things. Um, there's a lot for us to run through. So, but these are like the four pillars of how I understand that market research really matters. So, moving on to another thing, types of market research. We have the primary research and the secondary research. So, when I mean primary research means the data that you generate by through your actions, like actions that you take to generate the data. So in cases in these scenarios, you have things like surveys. You have things like surveys. You have things like interviews, you have things like focus groups. And in this place, you're able to ask questions like why are able to understand, because in surveys you're trying to provide questions that ask that makes it possible for you to understand the mind of the user. You're asking questions like why are you having this problem, what are the goals you're trying to achieve, why is this problem important to you, why would this be a good thing if I solve it. You can ask all the whys in that stage. They have surveys which also help to ask the why, and also focus groups that helps you ask the why. So more these are basically these are basically these are basically research that you do internally in your company most times, and this is based on data that you create. In this case, you are basically creating data. So basically, it's sent out to people. You have things like Google Forms, you have things like dot form that you send to people to fill out questionnaires, and from those questionnaires, you're able to extract data from that. Interviews is you hosting interviews with your target market. You sit, you ask them questions, as well as focal group. You could send a pool of materials to a group of people to see how they react, how they react, how they feel about the product, and then gives you data. Then secondary research is basically using existing data and quantitative analysis. This could be records in the city, it could be data you got from that company, it could be information from that company that's solving a similar problem that you are solving, and those data are made available. Then we should also look at another side. This is like an extra point. We'll talk about difference between qualitative and quantitative research. So, qualitative research helps you understand the why behind the customer behavior. It basically is an exploration and often helps you ask open-ended questions. Like I said, interviews you're able to ask open-ended questions. Is in focus group you're able to ask these questions. Why the secondary research is why the quantitative research does with numbers, how many, answers question how many. So depending on the goal you're trying to achieve or the information you're trying to obtain, you choose what type of market research really suits you. Thank you. So moving on to the next slide. Hope everybody's following. Please, if you have questions, just pen down your questions. We're going to have a session for where we're going to clearly address that. So steps in conducting market research. So I have like 5 steps here. First thing is to identify the research objective and goal. What are you trying to understand? Are you looking to understand your users' behavior? Are you looking to gauge the market demand? Are you looking to evaluate your competitor? You have to set a clear objective and goal for the research. This depends on your product, this depends on your market, this depends on your assumption, this depends on a lot of things that you're trying to figure out as regards to the problem you're trying to solve, based on the solution, the problem. I could say that I want to work on a personal finance app, and I'm trying to now do a research about the market, and the goal I'm trying to find out is what are the struggles that people are facing when it comes to managing their finance. How many people are actually struggling with managing their finance? How many people actually care about managing their finance? How many people are willing to pay for managing their finance? If I give these people a product that helps them solve their finance, what impact will it make in their life? You have to have a clear, defined research goal and objective, because this is what is going to be the driving force for the decisions you will make. I hope everybody's hearing me. Yeah,
Yes, we
everybody's hearing
can.
me.
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you very much. So the next thing is to define your users and your buyers persona. You are solving a problem for a group of people. So if you're going to be doing research, you have to target the group of people you feel are the people that you need to solve this problem for. Because it's saying a question like, I want to sell cats. So I need to know who I'm going to sell cats to. So I need to verify that I want to selling cars is the right thing to do in the market, and these people I'm targeting are the right people to buy this car. So you can draw out user personas. For example, because I'm going to use the case study throughout this project of a personal finance application for something that I worked on recently. What are the user personas of people that are interested um, in personal finance? You have people that are young working class individuals that earn between 100 to 200,000. You have high profile people that earn between 2 million to 10 million. You have young toddlers that are still in school and have a pocket allowance of 10K to 50K. You have to be able to draw out the personas. What are their attributes? Where do they stay? What do they do for a living? How much do they make? Where do they go to? What's their behavior in their finance? What is their philosophy in finance? You have to draw out those personas because those will guide the people you are targeting those questions and conversations to. You have to choose your research method. Understand that when it comes to research method, you can't most times don't use only one. You could use a mix of different methods. Sometimes you could start with a survey, send out the survey to people and see their reactions and feedback from the survey. From the survey, you can extract users that give uh, valuable insight and users that give questionable insights. From there, you can now extract users and now start an interview session with a couple of them from the surveys. You ask them more detailed questions, more open-ended questions for you to be able to clearly understand what they are thinking about, how they think, what they feel about the product, what are the problems they're actually facing. You can ask more personalized and, like I said, open-ended questions to get more insight. Then we go to the next stage of collecting and analyzing data. So with the above method that you choose, you have to move on to data collection. This basically involves, like I said, like creating surveys, conducting interviews, and gathering those information. Those information that you get, you gather them together. And this step is more like data analysis. But like, I'm not going to make it seem like a complicated thing because something that product managers should be able to do. Should be able to have conversations with people, get the information from them, and correlate it into one central truth. That's why I said your goals and objectives are also built on assumptions. I assume that a lot of people have issues in managing their finance. Now I've talked to Mr. A and he said that the issue is not basically in managing the finance, but it's basically in being reminded about managing my finance. Is the issue is the stress that he experiences in managing the finance. So you're able to now correlate those data, those information. Some may be qualitative, some may be quantitative, and you are able to correlate them and bring them together. Then the next thing is to draw meaningful insights from these things. After you have identified your goals, you can have three, four, five goals depending on what you're trying to achieve. After you have defined the personas that you're trying to target with those goals, you it could be 10 personas or 5 personas. Every persona that you're able to think of is important for your market, although you have those key personas. After that, you choose your research method. You could have a mix of research method. You could do quantitative analysis from digital sources about the certain topic you're working on. You could have surveys that will be sent out. You could also establish focus groups or even run interviews. I really advise interviews. I'm a fan of interviews because you're able to ask open-ended questions that will give you a different perspective of the problem you're solving. Then once you do that, you collect data and you analyze it. But the most important thing is that once that data is analyzed, you have to draw meaningful insights. You could do this using flowcharts, using affinity diagrams, using customer journey maps. There are different ways to draw it out, but it's basically in a simple term, aggregation of all the things you have learned from your customers and defining basic pointers and assumptions that you have confirmed. Do you get? So now I've talked to 10 users about managing their finance. I have found that in the market today, there is a high percentage of people within the age of 19 to 30 that are struggling with managing their finance. The pain point in managing their finance is time to manage their finance, being constantly reminded about managing their finance, and the ease of managing their finance or creating their finance from different bank accounts that exist. So after through the entire process, these are like the meaningful insights I've placed down. So based on those insights, you will now start driving your product development journey. Don't know if I'm making sense. There's some extras that you can consider understanding your competitors. People are already existing in the market. Like I said, there's hardly anything new under the sun. It's just that someone was doing it differently, and that person was doing it differently, and in that process, he has learned a lot of things. So your way of getting an edge is understanding what he did to solve the problem, understand how you are doing it differently but better. The final thing is to research your industry. You need to understand the industry you're getting into. Is it the right time to get to the industry? Is the industry gonna have does it have a high barrier of entry? Is the industry a very guided by regulation? Do you have the resources to counter that regulation? You have to also understand the industry. So basically Those are the two extras for you today. I hope I'm not moving too fast. Keep your questions. I'm going to answer them. I'll try and create time for that. So section two of it now, moving to product viability, ensuring product viability. First step is, what is product viability? So this basically refers to the ability of the product to succeed in the market by addressing the user's needs and generating value. This is not just about having a great idea, it's about ensuring that the idea translates a sustainable into a sustainable and successful product. So you have to understand that having an idea is not all. The process of ensuring that your idea is translating into successful and a sustainable and successful product is very, very important, and is the whole of product viability. Then we'll do this chit chat of why it matters before we get into the nitty-gritty. Why it matters. So the first thing we're going to consider is user-centric product. So ensuring products that prioritize the end user's needs and preference, and also leads to a higher user satisfaction and adoption rate. Why do we need to worry about product viability before we get invested into development? Right? It's because when you build a user-centric product, right, you have a higher chance of satisfying your users. You are not going to be talking about, you're not going to, because most times you release a product out there and you see that no one is interacting with it. It's no one is appreciating it, no one is paying for it. Everybody has an issue with it. Most times it's because you do not consider the viability of that product in the market you're going into. So being able to consider product viability as early in the process enough, you are able to have a higher chance of user satisfaction because you are more focused on the end user's needs and preference. So also another thing you have to consider is it's focused on minimizing development waste. So there are a lot of features that people build into their product that are extremely redundant. They do not make sense. They are not useful to solving the primary problems that these users have. And in this process, you are wasting time, wasting money, wasting effort. And as in working, most of us are working in startups, and even bigger companies are becoming to have a startup structure and approach to development. So in that case, you don't have time, you don't have time, and you don't have resources to waste. So every time and every resource you have matters. So having your focus on product viability, they are able to understand what features matter, and in that way prevent the wasting of development resources. Faster time to market. So based on product visibility, you are able to understand the features that are considered as core features. And understanding core features and focusing on core features ensure that you can have a faster time to market. The time from the point where you have the idea, the point where you have an idea, the point where you are in the market. The time is shortened when you are focusing on just the core features. And the core features can only be determined from your market research, factoring also your product viability. This allows early launches, user feedback, and rapid iteration. When you are considering your product viability, you have the opportunity to get out there fast. You understand that if I'm building a car hailing service, all I need basically is for a user to be able to click on the button and get a car, and that person to be able to see the request and accept it. A lot of other things that may be in your mind, reward system, referral system, detailed wallet structure, like there are a million things that you can add, but it doesn't solve the core problem or solution. Being focused on product visibility and market research, you will understand those core features, and being able to focus on those core features, it's going to push you to market faster. We have a couple of other. So revenue generation, it increases the likelihood of generating revenue because users are going to be willing to pay for a problem, a solution, pay for solution that addresses the pain points and their need, resulting in a healthy bottom line. Most times, lack of market research and product viability is the result of a lot of people not making money. Once you're able to focus on market research and product visibility early enough in the product development journey, you are able to ensure that you have a product that has the likeliness to generate revenue. Because I will only pay for something that makes my life better. And if you start those conversations and you start to look at those things early, you're able to understand, does this really make anybody's life better? And if you don't, it's not something that you should dive into, except until you have properly refined it into something that is making someone's life better. Obviously, long-term success and enhanced brand reputation, because obviously, if you are building something that solves the problem for a good market, you last longer. Um, Moving on to the next thing, identifying users' need. Product viability is closely tied to understanding what users need. Your product will only be viable when you have when you have obtained good results from your market research and you have obtained insight into what your users need. Understanding users need, deep understanding of users need is a central point of the product viability. Product viability is the product is for the users, right? The product is for the users. We are not, there's no need doing this if it's not going to be for the users. You have to put yourself in their shoes and understand clearly their pain points and emphasize clearly on them. Yes, there are other stakeholders that exist, management, the team, but the most primary point at which everything should be rounded upon is the users, because they are the ones that's going to validate that this product is good. So understanding their needs is the holy grail of obtaining product viability. So I wrote an example in a real world here when you're working on the application. You have to be able to have like intense, like in the use case written here, you have intense interviews with users to understand their struggles. So you talk about them, ask them why are they have which this you have tried to understand the problem they're having, what they have tried to so what they have tried to solve those problems, what is the pain point in solving this problem, what's the value of the solution that is created from this problem. If you solve this problem for this person, how is it going to change their life? What is it going to change their life for good? The business model you're trying to implement, does it is it something that the users are going to be comfortable with? Is it something that is going to work in line with what you're trying to do? Understanding these things is now what now shapes your product. It's not you in your house sitting down and imagining something that you want to build and building it and not giving it to the market for the market to shape around your product. It doesn't work that way. You shape your product around the market, you shape your product around your users. Building a minimum viable product. One thing about product viability is that once you obtain understanding of what the users need, this is what guides your MVP. Because MVP is also something that helps you easily determine the outcome of your market research as well as your product viability early enough. Because what MVP means is minimum viable product. This is the simplest version of a product that allows you to test its viability with real users. It's not the final product, but it's strategic starting point. Once you have the market research gotten and you have good insight about your users, a very good way to test the viability of that your product with your users after, bear in mind, this is after having conversations with them to understand what they need, is an MVP. And this is something that we all struggle to achieve because we have we have issues of misunderstanding what MVPs are. MVP doesn't need to be nice, it doesn't need to be amazing, it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to solve the problem in the basic, in the easiest form possible. It should take you a very short time to build. It should take you very little resources to build. It should be something that you can get on. The people will say you should do this in a week. Some people will say you should do it in a month. Obviously, you should understand that there are different verticals and different industries that require much more longer periods in obtaining MVPs. But in the grand scheme of things, the basic concept of it and the viability of it can be solved or obtained with very basic processes. Very basic processes. I remember a project in Abuja one time that does with does with was the project was based off booking drivers. If you want to go somewhere, you book a driver, right? So my car is parked in a place and I'm probably had a late night and I can't really drive. I want to book a ride. I want to book a driver. You can book a driver. So what did they do to test the philosophy initially was just to create a Google form that if you wanted to book something, just fill the form. and somebody attends to you at the end, they didn't do the app, they didn't do the website, just do the Google form. So if you wanted a driver for any reason, you go and fill the form and you click on submit. Once you submit, they would look at the request from their own end and send you a payment link manually via mail, and you accept. If you're okay with the price and the parameter they sent you by via mail, you accept and you make payment and you proceed. Building that thing should not take you more than a day, and that was able to help them validate the product and understand the challenges in the market. They now understood that the problem was getting people from their house to the clients to drive their car was too expensive. So it was no longer, yes, it solved the problem, but it was no longer viable. They didn't have to build the mobile application, they didn't have to build the website, they didn't have to design anything, just use the Google form. It solved the problem. You go to the form, you fill your information, you order, they will see, they'll give you a driver to come to you. But the issue was getting driver to you was too expensive. So covering the cost they charge you and the cost of driver getting to you and the time actually to get to you was a problem. So the only way to determine there was having an MVP. And they did that just from a Google form. They didn't need to get developers, pay millions of naira to get anywhere. It was just a very, very simple process. Creating an MVP involves prioritizing features that addresses the core needs of the target audience. What is that? What do I need? I want to order this. Or let me be able to order it. And that's all we should worry about. Let me order it, let it come to me. Basic, basic, basic. By starting small, you are able to start iterating based off feedback, because something you need to know that if you build a very, very big product, it's not easy to iterate because you have to iterate so many moving parts at the same time. But if you have one feature that people are commenting on, you can gradually iterate on that feature easily, then start adding things to it gradually. I read some examples here. Everybody uses Spotify and you can see the host of features on Spotify. Spotify DJ is an amazing addition to the Spotify platform. I love it so much. Um, but when they started, they just had a basic desktop app, not mobile app, desktop app that just does one thing, music streaming. That's all. So thinking that way makes it easier for you to get in and validate. All right, cool. So last section is case study, best practices, and pitfall. I don't know if I'll have time for case study. Let's just run something basic. So, Buju app, a personal finance application, beautiful. I want to build a personal finance application. Good. Okay. What is the marketing about that? I have to start with running a market research. I could do the quantitative research on my laptop by researching the market, understanding how the personal finance market is in Nigeria, understanding people that are in that market and solving those problems. How they solve those problems? How they doing? Check their basic ways of doing that. Some people check reviews on the company's app. Some people try to talk to the company's users. Some people try to read articles, find quantitative metrics on other platforms that will tell them how many people have bank accounts, how many people are concerned about their personal finance. There are different articles online to help with getting analysis. But in the basic sense of things, I need to understand, fine, I want to help people to handle their finances better. Good. What are those assumptions I'm creating in my mind? First of all, people care about their personal finance, right? So we that literally some people in Nigeria just want to ensure that they're making enough money. Don't really care about how that money is used. They are just bought in by the fact that I'm making 100K this and I'm making 200K next month. So you need to know which type of individuals in Nigeria are actually concerned about how they use the money they make. Then you have obviously going to create personas, and based on those personas, you would target them with conversations, or you can target them with conversations or target them with surveys to understand which of those personas actually care about their personal finance. They also need to understand that those that not care about their personal finance, what are the challenges and issues they are facing in managing those things. One beautiful way of doing that is having open-ended conversation through interviews. You have 10 people that are cut across different personalities. Someone is working in an oil company and he's within the age of 30, he's married. Someone is working in a tech company, is a young guy, makes a good amount of money and doesn't have many responsibilities. Someone is a woman that works, has a store in the market and she's married but she makes her own money. So you have those personas and you target them with conversations to determine the answers to those your assumptions. We're assuming that people in Nigeria care about their personal finance. We need to know how many people care about it. We need to know those that are caring about it. How are they solving their problems? And if and how are they solving their problems? And what are the challenges they have in solving their problems? People could have challenges in the sense that it takes a long time to get um, their transactions from different places into one place for them to analyze. Some people may have issues with they don't have time, they want the entire thing to be automated, they want if they could have it automated to be good for them. So in those conversations, you see that you have a wealth of insight in the users that you're trying to target and understand their general problems and solutions. Going a bit deeper, you just start worrying about the business model you're trying to get into. So if I'm charging for this service, will people be willing to pay? They start asking them questions like, if I solve this problem for you, what is really change in your life? If I'm able to help you manage your finance, then you start saving 20,000 naira from your 1 million extra every month. What value will that give to you? What will be the long-term impact in your life? Because people buy for that our purchases are not irrational, they are emotional. They will justify it with rational reasons. So what would that impact in your life, in your future? How would that make you feel? That way you can now understand, okay, fine. If this feeling is really important, I can charge for this feeling that I'm going to give this person. So these are things that you do in conversations and interviews, and it's questions that everybody should ask before we even jump into development. Once you're able to really determine those insights, you think about an MVP. Like I said, for a driver ordering system, or if you consider something like a food ordering system, you should not jump into building a mobile application. You could start with a basic form where people could see the food they want to order and select it and submit. Then somebody contact them with information. Or there are always basic ways of approaching your MVP, but you should always ask yourself the question that from my conversation with my users, from the market research I've obtained of my users, what are the most important things that they need? What is that important problem that they have? It could be five problems, but what is the most pressing one? Because it has to be just one. Pick that one, find the easiest way to validate that that one is important and they pay for it by creating something really, really basic. This kind of thing now, you can create a Excel sheet that helps people to easily input their finances and you do some basic formula calculations to determine an outcome from them at the end of the period. That will take you more than a week to set up. Then you give it to those people that you talk to use for a while and see how they're using it, see the outcome, and you start refining the concept you're trying to deliver upon. My time is running out, but we can always talk more use cases later. Best practices start early. The earlier you gather insight, the better you can shape your product strategy. As a product manager, anywhere you go, once you are there, the first thing you're supposed to do is to start gathering insights from your users, from your market, from feedback. If you are in a product that already exists, start gathering insight before you start doing anything. Insight. Try to understand. Okay, fine. We have 10 sign up. Well, what is happening? What is causing it? What is causing to drop? Why are people not coming in? Gather insights as soon as possible. Because the earlier you have insight, the easier it is for you to shape your product. Easier it is for you to shape your product. Keep user setting keep user centering at the core. Keep user centering at the core. You have to understand their needs, their preference, their pain. Your product is built for the users to solve a problem for them. So that should be your holy grail of focus. Continuously validate. You do not have the answer after the first validation. You have to continuously validate your assumption, your product features, your market fit. You have to get feedback all the time. If you finally validated that something works, you iterate on it, make it better based on their feedbacks. You validate the feedback, you make it better. And constantly iterate and evolve your products. Constantly iterate with user feedback, changing it because you have to realize that users need get improved when you solve problems for them. You solve the problem for the user. You solve the problem for the user. The problem you start facing would revolve. So you have to now constantly have feedback to that person from that person to understand. Okay, fine. It's no longer the experience of managing my finance now. It is the time. Okay, fine. I've helped you with the experience. Now you're having issues with time. How can I now make this thing take you a shorter period of time to go through? So I work on that and I achieve that. Then I do it. I get your feedback and I get the next problem. So that continuous situation I am evolving is very very important. Well, what's at the end? Pitfalls and to avoid bias research. Bias research. You should you should not, because most times we product managers and founders, we have like our own perspective on the problem. We feel that this problem is green, and most times having that in our mind, we're not able to make very very informed decisions, understanding insight. We're not able to have those informed conversations. It happens a lot, and we block out counter narrative to what we have in our mind. So we should ensure that we are conscious about bias research. Have open-minded research. Be open to uncomfortable insights. Be open to counter insights to your own realization. Like if you feel that people in Nigeria need to be given 20,000 every month, that is your perspective, and you are going to research. Be ready to hear 10,000, 20,000, 15,000, 50,000, 100,000. Be ready to hear all those things and kill out your own understanding of the whole concern. Be open-minded to, even if you are a user, you are a typical user, because sometimes we build products for ourselves, still be open-minded to the perspective of other, neglecting your competition. Do not assume that your product is unique without thorough competitive analysis, assessment. You have to go into the market and see who is building something similar, who is solving the market, solving the problem with you, who is in that same industry with you. What are they doing? What are they doing wrong? What are they doing right? How is it going for them? You need to clearly not neglect that, because you could be building the same thing that somebody has built and that person has more money than you, had more users than you, had more better strategy than you. So you're just wasting, you're just investing your resources in something that you can't win because somebody's already far ahead of you. To be able to understand and analyze your competition, you can now know how you can stand out, how you can solve the problem better, and how can you just be better in general. So do not neglect it. The next is a million like a million features. You want to build everything in one day. You want to build 100 things in one day, A to Z. It doesn't work that way. Overloading your MVP takes you longer to get to market, takes you longer time to get feedback. You should keep it minimal and focus on the core value proposition. Stay that way. Ignoring user feedback. There's a reason why they are users. They're the ones that are using the product. They're the ones that the product is built for. You should not ignore their feedback. Whatever you're doing, you ask for feedback. And those feedbacks, you take them, you listen to them, you analyze that. I know people say that users do not understand what they need most times. That's why if you ask the person, if Harry Paul asked individuals, what would you have wanted instead of the horses, they wouldn't have told them, I want a car. So, but still, once you have that concept, that solution that you feel solve the problem, you have to get feedback from them. And that feedback, you always have to not ignore it. You analyze it, you filter it, you test the feedback across other people's feedback, then you find the balance point and you test the narrative. I think that's basically it. So yeah, I still have the conclusion. So basically, guys, market research and product viability is very important and something that you should obviously start with whenever you're getting to any product, any feature. You have to ensure that the market wants that feature, wants that product, and it is viable in the market. You have to find a basic way to test the viability using an MVP that solves the core problem that you're targeting, and ensure they're investing as little as possible in finding that validation, because software is expensive or software is taxing. So you need to ensure that the resources is effectively utilized by validating your product as well as understanding the importance and implementing your market research. I think that's what I have for now. So yeah, I hope I really, really dished out everything that everybody. I hope I give value to everyone. So yeah, I will drop the mic for Mrs. Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
too soon.
Yes. Can we hear me, guys? Guys, am I clear enough?
Yes, yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Ebuka Arinze, for that awesome session. It was a very, very enlightening and interesting one. And I'm sure that we have questions and answers. We have questions rather, which we are going to be launching into